So here's a question. Why is this world not utopia? Every major religion, including ours, teaches their members about compassion and helping others in need. Even those people that call themselves spiritual but not religious or humanist purport to believe in those same values. And yet this world, this gift that all of humanity shares, which can be absolutely stunningly beautiful, is often an ugly place as a result of humanity's actions. I just don't understand it, but for today we're going to ignore all that and instead focus on some ways of maybe tipping the balance a little bit away from the ugliness. I've said before when I spoke here that I'm always impressed with the outreach this small community provides. For those of you that are involved in that, just take this message as validation of your efforts. For those who are not contributing what they could, I hope that this talk will maybe encourage a little bit more effort. This same talk will be broadcast online to a wider audience, and many people outside these four walls most assuredly need to be encouraged to go out and do more. So forgive me for preaching to the converted, but there are those who need to be pushed a little, and sometimes pushed a lot. People who know me ask why I do these talks when they take so much out of me. I guess for me it's just my way of paying forward all the things I've been blessed with. In most ways, I am the most exceptionally average person you will ever meet. If I were a flavor, I'd be vanilla. I don't have good looks or great athletic ability or the gift of stirring oratory. And yet in the ways that count, it's like I've won some kind of a lottery. Look at my genetic heritage. My mother is very smart, and my dad knows how things work and can fix anything. And most importantly, Dad was always willing to use that skill to help anybody that needed it. I doubt if he ever turned down a request for help in his life. That is the single biggest thing that he taught me. And look at where I was born and raised, 5 minutes away from Niagara Falls, in the middle of the best country in the world. And I've worked hard, and I have a successful career. But if it weren't for the fact that I was born in Canada, all the hard work in the world wouldn't have given me the opportunities that I've had. So in return for all I've been given, if a few minutes of effort on my part can inspire somebody to do something, how could I not make that effort? For as long as I can remember, there's been a minute for missions at the churches that I've attended. Well, today you're going to get 20 minutes, not missions in the sense of the United Church's official mission and service project, but missions in the sense of everything we can do to reach outside of these four walls. I know there are those who disagree with me on this one, but for me, there is no more important expression of faith than what it encourages us to do for our fellow man. Sure, coming to church to worship together might be important, but if you're doing that, you should also be responding by following the instructions to care for your neighbors. James 2:26 says, "For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead." Let's face it, on this small blue planet, we're all neighbors. Especially in this age of global economies and global connectedness. On July 4th every year, the U.S. celebrates their independence. Wouldn't it be nice once in a while if the whole world could celebrate our interdependence? I know I'm going to sound like a jerk later on, bragging about the outreach that I do, but bragging is not why I'm going to do it. At least it's not the only reason I'm going to do it. I have to give you examples, and the things that I'm passionate about are the examples that I know, so that's what I have to talk about. And by talking about the outreach possibilities that I know, maybe I can inspire somebody to go and do something themselves. That's the point of me talking to congregations at any time, not just today. There's a quote I often use that says, "Do something, and for somebody, the world will change." But I'd like to propose taking that one step further. Do something and then inspire others to do something too, and the world can change for many. If I can accomplish nothing else, that would be enough. I'm going to drop a few pebbles in this big pond and hope to watch the ripples spread. When I started planning my first Habitat for Humanity trip and told people I was headed to the Philippines for a build, several people asked me why I was going so far away, that there were people in need right here at home. And yeah, of course, that's true, but my question is this: why does it need to be one or the other? Why not both? Do people close to home deserve help more than those far away, or vice versa? Why should some simple accident of geography being born here instead of the other side of the world, result in any difference in the level of help that we offer? I'll give you an example of that attitude taken to hateful extremes. When I was at Lundy's Lane, I ran a group that watched different videos and used them to generate discussion. One week we watched a video about a Baptist preacher's crisis of faith following the 2004 tsunami in Indonesia. Afterwards, we were discussing why God would allow such tragedies, and one of our church members said this about the hundreds of thousands of lives lost, and this is a direct quote: "It's too bad Indonesia isn't a Christian country." As if being Christian would have saved all those people, and as if non-Christian people were somehow less deserving of being saved. I guess, given the fact that Indonesia is more than 9% Christian, that means it's likely that more than 15,000 Christians did in fact die that day. Maybe the person who said that felt that the ones that died weren't Christian enough, or that they had done something wrong or not done enough right. I don't know. But I'm sure that many of the people who died in the tsunami had never even been exposed to Christianity. So being Christian or not was not a matter of choice. It was, as I said before, a simple accident of geography, that they were born in a place where Christianity was not widespread. It's a slippery slope when we try to decide who is and is not deserving of help. Better, I think, to make sure we apply compassion equally everywhere without bias and prejudice. So yeah, I like to go overseas with Habitat for Humanity Global Village teams. But I also sit on the planning committee for the YWC Niagara's No Fixed Address event, which raises more than $50,000 a year right here in Niagara. And the community support team that I chair at work raises more than $25,000 a year for city kids, which supports and empowers inner city children and youth in Hamilton. And I'm working with the local leg of the Push for Change project, which is a cross-Canada trek to raise awareness and funds to fight youth homelessness. So it's not just one or the other. I'm trying to do as much as I can, as widely as I can. But that's enough about my personal outreach, maybe more than enough. I thought I'd throw out a few other outreach possibilities now and maybe generate some ideas by celebrating what others are doing. Because of the global interconnectedness of this age, we hear so much about war and strife and violence and pain and famine and hate and fear. Sometimes I feel like we're so inundated with bad news that it drowns out any good news. But right off the top of my head, I can give you two examples of global outreach projects that have had a profound effect in very different ways. The first is that ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that went viral a couple of years ago. It was kind of a silly but fun way to generate funds and interest. And it ended up raising over $200 million, which is being credited for some exciting research breakthroughs. One of the researchers said, global collaboration among scientists, which was really made possible by ALS Ice Bucket Challenge donations, led to this important discovery. It's a prime example of the success that can come from the combined efforts of so many people. So the thousands and thousands of people who had some fun and made contributions to that effort ended up creating a significant outreach. The second example is something you've probably never heard of. It only exists because of the internet. In fact, it would have been impossible without it. I'm talking about a group called AVAZ, which is a global civic organization launched in January 2007 that promotes activism on issues like climate change, human rights, animal rights, corruption, poverty, and conflict. Some sources consider it to be the globe's largest and most powerful online activist network. There are more than 44 million members in 194 countries worldwide. I'm one of them. And the online petitions have generated some notable success in campaigns against the likes of Monsanto pesticides, in pushing politicians in various countries to address and take responsibility for climate change and ending illegal hunting and corruption and so on. It's another example of how to bring a lot of small voices together and create a significant impact. Being an armchair activist might not be the best way to change the world, but it does give a voice to a people who might not be otherwise be able to join the fight directly. There are loads of examples of people who are doing great things for the world. There are celebrities in business and sports and entertainment who use their wealth and influence to do great things. Actor Matt Damon does a lot of work with the charity water.org, which works to provide safe water sources to people who need them. He actually co-founded that group 20 years ago after he'd been overseas on a movie set. Look at the Gates Foundation and the vast sums that they've earmarked for charity. Hockey player P.K. Subban donated $10 million to Montreal Children's Hospital. You might not like him as a hockey player, but you surely have to admire that gift. Actor Jude Law is involved as spokesperson for the Peace One Day campaign, and he has been for a number of years. And in response to the recent racial conflicts in the U.S., retired basketball star Michael Jordan donated $1 million to each of these two organizations, the Institute for Community Police Relations and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And listen to the concluding remarks in his announcement about the donations. He said, "We are privileged to live in the world's greatest country, a country that has provided my family and me with the greatest of opportunities. The problems we face didn't happen overnight, and they won't be solved tomorrow, but if we all work together, we can foster greater understanding, positive change, and create a more peaceful world for ourselves, our children, our families, and our communities." He's wrong about that greatest country part, of course. He's not Canadian, he's American. But aside from that, those are great words. Of course, my personal favorite example of someone using their influence to positively change the world is Jimmy Carter. Into his 90s, he's still not only a great ambassador for Habitat for Humanity, he's regularly personally involved. And the Carter Foundation that he and Rosalind founded is guided by a fundamental commitment to human rights and the alleviation of human suffering. My favorite quote from Jimmy Carter is this one: "We can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes, and we must." For me, he is a shining example of an influential figure making positive changes on a global scale. But it's important to remember that it's not just high-profile figures that can be charity superstars. There are smart, strong people who are making a difference locally, too. Some people I really admire and who I really enjoy working with. Nikki Inch and Elizabeth Zimmerman and the rest of the team from the YWCA Niagara. Carol Stewart Kirkby from the United Way of Niagara Falls and Fort Erie. Mike Strange, who's always looking for new ways to generate interest and funds for the causes he's passionate about. And many others, of course, the dedicated team from Project Share, the ladies of every church I've ever attended, and the dedicated volunteers from a zillion charity agencies. What they all share is that they found a cause that they believe in with all their hearts, and they fight for it. A lot of people underestimate their ability to make a positive change in the world. They're overwhelmed by the sheer number of things that need to be done, all the people that need help, and all the worthy causes that exist. But lots of individuals making small efforts can change the world. I gave a bunch of examples earlier, but here's some even simpler ones. Hold the door open for people. Volunteer your seat on the bus. Smile at strangers. Pick up litter that's not yours. Buy a coffee for the person behind you in line at Timmy's. If you want to help Habitat for Humanity, but you can't contribute physically, help serve lunch to the people that can. And never think for a moment that these seemingly small acts don't make a big difference. Be willing to help others in any way you can, whenever you can, wherever you can. Decide that a life that's just good enough really isn't good enough at all. Demand more. Nothing makes me happier than people putting forward their best efforts to make the world a better place. And I love the enthusiasm that people put into causes they're passionate about. But there is a dark side to that as well. And as much as I want to be the world's biggest cheerleader to outreach for the needy, there are cautionary notes that we should be careful about as well. We need to make sure that we approach these efforts thoughtfully, and I'll tell you why. In our efforts to help, there have been times where that very help was misapplied. One example is the relief efforts in Haiti following the earthquake a few years ago. Relief agencies sent huge amounts of rice, which is a staple of their diet, down to Haiti. The costs were subsidized because they were for disaster relief. But what that meant is that the local rice growers and distributors were cut out of the market, and it destroyed their market. It would have been better to include local sourcing in the relief effort, which many agencies do. After the hurricane a few weeks ago, the same issue came up again. I read an article that said, What needs to happen is that, as in every disaster, there needs to be a serious effort made to ensure that the help that comes builds up the country and does not undercut the country's institutions. Observers suggest that donors ask questions about where their money will go and prioritize giving to local organizations that are run by Haitians. That's something that always needs to be considered when we're looking at lending support to a particular charity drive. It's like the old axiom, first, do no harm. When I was looking at doing my first overseas humanitarian trip, that's one of the things that attracted me to Habitat for Humanity. They source their building supplies locally. So it supports the local economy way beyond just the family that we're building for. Even the food that they give us on the build site supports the local economy since it's catered by a local group. That's really important. In this age of instant global information flow, it's easy to see a need somewhere in the world and jump into a response. But if that response is going to damage the local economy or social structure in some way, we need to carefully shape our response around those considerations. I'd be the last person in the world to dissuade anyone from contributing to outreach projects, but I do ask that you exercise care in how you select your charity partners. I'm always a little bit leery about recommending a particular charitable agency, but here's a little bit of information about one that encourages the kind of local grassroots development that I was just talking about. The agency is called Kiva. It's an international nonprofit founded in 2005, based in San Francisco, with a mission to connect people through lending to alleviate poverty. Basically, what they do is use donations to finance microloans to people in developing countries who lack access to traditional funding methods. By lending as little as $25 on Kiva, anyone can help a borrower start or grow a business, go to school, access clean energy, or otherwise realize their potential. And when a Kiva loan enables someone to grow a business and create opportunities for themselves, it creates opportunities for others as well. That ripple effect can shape the future for a family or for an entire community. They've loaned out over $800 million that way, with a 97.2% repayment rate. Isn't that a cool way of giving people the encouragement and the means for a hand up, rather than just providing handouts? I got time for one last story. This is a feel-good story. Jason Haney is a construction foreman. He was working on a job site across from a hospital. He decided to do what he could to make the stay bearable for the kids in the hospital, so he made a giant cutout of Waldo and played Where's Waldo each day on his site. The kids in the ward opposite the construction site would flock to the windows to find Waldo in his daily hiding spots. Isn't that a great little story? You don't have to go big to brighten somebody's world a little bit. That light is available to all of us. We just have to find ways that we can shine it. Jason Haney certainly did. I hear people say that with work and family, they don't have time to devote to charity work. I sympathize, but not very much, because some of those same people who don't have time somehow manage to fit in a round of golf or two every week. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with recreational activities, but if you have time for that, but not for charity, that's your choice. And if that's the case, don't tell me you don't have time for charity. Be honest with me and with yourself, and admit that you choose to do other things instead. Life is an endless series of choices, and one of the things that separates us in Canada from much of the rest of the world is the unbelievable breadth of choices that are offered to us. All I ask is that you think deeply about what you can do, decide what you will do, and then follow through with the commitment. Here's something very old that says it nicely. It's from 1909, from the Book of Good Cheer, a little bundle of cheery thoughts. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. So please, go out and do the something you can do. Thank you.